Not massively, no. Me and my wife went to Cyprus though for the last like 4 months.
Okay.
In March, just to do a bit of like remote working and stuff. But we kind of got homesick. And just came back to England. Yeah, it was the heat was a lot out there, and the difference of lifestyle. So yeah, just came back home basically in the end. Yeah.
Awesome. I've heard very good things about Cyprus, but I have heard I mean I'm from Florida, so I think like when I hear heat, I get excited because I'm like I love the humidity. I love everything about being on like a beach side too. So it sounds like that might be a good thing for me. But I've heard in the UK it does get very hot sometimes. So understand that it's not for everybody. Cool. Well, thank you so much for
Mhm.
joining. We are officially live now on all of the places that we need to be. So I wanted to thank you so much for joining us and welcome everybody who's watching to Design to Dev. This is Zeppelin's community interview series where we talk to people who are designing and building beautiful products. And today we have with us Luke Dalton. Luke, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do, a little bit about what you're working on. We'd love to get to know you.
Yeah. Yeah, my name's Luke Dalton. I'm 28 from England. I've been designing for the last like 3, 4 years, and originally worked at a startup in the prop tech industry, and then moved to agency side and worked at an agency, and then started freelancing under the kind of moniker of Exalt Studio, basically. And yeah, been freelancing under that kind of moniker for the last like year or so, and yeah, work with a lot of clients across the US and Europe, and yeah, mainly focusing around SaaS and web applications. Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. We've got one comment on LinkedIn here so far. His name is Mandar. He says he is excited to see you here. So we've already got your fans piling up. We're super excited to get to know you too. Speaking about your freelancing, and I guess technically you could call it a little agency too. What does your day to day usually look like when it comes to that?
Yeah, I don't like subscribe to some like morning routine stuff, morning ritual. Like, yeah, I just pretty much it's just very free flowing. Like, I just wake up with my wife, like no set time, and maybe get some coffee or something with my wife, and just basically just get stuck in. I'll plan out the day a little bit, break down kind of like what clients I'm working with like that day or that week, and then pretty much just dive in and just work till the evening. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so you're not one of the wake up at 5 a.m. every day, go in an ice bath. Do you don't have anything like that. That's
No, no, I don't really believe in all that. I think just like just do what feels comfortable to you. Whatever routine that allows you to put out, the output that you need to put out and stuff. I think, yeah, don't you don't need to follow any like trends and stuff when it comes to that stuff.
awesome. I love that. And it sounds like you're in a great place to be able to do what you like to do, to be able to have that consistency, that work-life balance. I think that's missing so
Yeah.
often in this line of work. So that's awesome
Yeah.
to hear. Very excited about that. Speaking more to you specifically as a designer, do you have any like core beliefs or experiences that have shaped you the most when it comes to design?
Um, I think it's more just having like a good work ethic, and I think I've always been quite competitive, like from a young age and stuff. Like I played tennis and things like this, and like I always wanted to like win.
Uh-huh.
And I've always had like a knack for like technology and stuff. So I used to make music on my computer when I was like
Okay.
15. So I would just be like on my laptop all the time making music, making music. And then I think coming to design, it was like the perfect fit. It was like it was tech, but it was like creative, and it was like business at the same time, and it was just like kind of the perfect thing for me to like get stuck into, really. So yeah, that's kind of yeah, something like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you've got garage band experience. Are there any SoundCloud links floating out around out there that people can tie back to you, or not anything publicly?
Yeah, yeah. I'm not going to mention it, but yeah, there was a whole bunch of stuff I used to put out. But yeah,
Awesome. Very
yeah.
cool. Well, sort of, it's awesome to hear that you've had these sort of artistic inclinations ever since you were young too. If you could maybe point to like one thing or somebody, who or what would be your inspiration when it comes to design, maybe music? Has it stayed the same? Has it changed? Curious to know about like your process.
In terms of like inspiration for design, I think like I really like honing on like web apps and stuff and like SaaS. Like I'm trying to be like more specialized in a sense rather than like being a bit more of a generalist. I'm leaning in a bit more on being a specialist. So I just love like web applications, like dense data heavy screens and technical stuff and like yeah, I'm just all about that, making things like feel really like cool and clean and professional. So I think yeah, I just love that whole side of design. So that's kind of just my whole area. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I could tell looking back at your profile on X, formerly known as Twitter, that's been like the hardest thing to break of not to say Twitter anymore. You've built up quite the following for being able to share all of the, the different interfaces that you're designing for these clients. Is that a big way that you've been getting clients as well too? Is just sharing your work, or do you do a lot of networking? Like, what does that process usually look like for you?
Mm, mm. Yeah, literally. X was just how I've grown like my whole kind of freelancing like business, whatever you want to call it, career basically. I think a year ago when I was working at an agency, I was enjoying it and everything. And it was a great experience. I learned like loads, but I always wanted like that kind of autonomy over like my schedule and like what I wanted to do and what I wanted to work on. So moving into freelancing was the kind of the best fit for me. And yeah, sorry, what was your question? What was your
That was great. It was mostly just like talking about, what do you usually get a lot of business from that, or is it from networking or
yeah,
anything else
sorry, yeah,
too? No,
yeah,
you're good.
yeah. It's all through X and sharing work through X. Yeah.
Awesome. So the lesson to everybody out here watching, listening is share your work. Don't be shy. If you want to get out there and do something, you have to put yourself out there first. Because I know that can oftentimes be a barrier for a lot of people. I think a lot of people sometimes get nervous to do it. Do you have any tips for people on overcoming that, on feeling more confident in what they're doing?
Yeah, I think yeah, just don't buy into that whole notion of like imposter syndrome and stuff because the people at the top of like any field like they started from zero, no one ever starts being amazing at something. So I think just remove that whole notion of imposter syndrome from your head and just put your work out and just practice every day and just don't overthink it, just trust the process basically.
Awesome. I love that. That radical confidence, acceptance in yourself, I think can present itself in a lot of nice ways too. So that's awesome to hear. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
You spoke to working at an agency as well before this. Did you work a lot with developers there? And if so, sort of how is your relationship with developers? Because I know design to dev oftentimes is a field that has sometimes a lot of conflict between the two. But I think more often
Yeah.
than not, people need to realize that you're all working towards the same thing in the end. So try to make everybody happy. So what is your relationship with developers? Maybe what did it look like and what does it look like now?
Yeah, the agency often agency side like projects move pretty quick, so usually you'll be kind of like designing on one project and you're just on to the next one. So pretty much my whole career from agency and freelancing, I've actually had a massive like disconnect with developers. Like I've really not had a lot of like one-to-ones with them. Like yeah, a massive kind of disconnect there. I think when I worked at a startup, the relationship was a lot closer
Mm-hmm.
because I was the solo designer, and then they had a core kind of front end developer, and we would speak a lot more about things. So I think within the setting of a company, I've had like good relationships with developers and figuring out like the best way of doing things and like this is how we're designing it and they're having input and we're kind of collaborating in that sense. But since working like agency side and client side and freelancing, yeah, I've not had a close relationship with developers at all, to be honest. Usually I'm just moving on to the next project or yeah, it's yeah, there's quite a disconnect there at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a lot more common nowadays, especially in a post-COVID world where there's so many disconnected teams where it's like maybe the devs are even in a different country, and you have to try to work across those different barriers. So, what are maybe some of the steps that you take now to prepare your work for development? Do you do intense file mockups? Like, what does your strategy usually look like there?
Yeah, I think now it's just setting up the project in just like just the most simple way to kind of digest. Like I used to kind of create, well, I create design systems for my projects, but often developers don't actually look at that. It's more of a designer's thing. So now instead of like expecting them to kind of go into the design system and look at like, oh, what happens if I hover this, I'm kind of just creating a mock-up with like a mouse pointer
Okay.
hovering something visually, and then they can just see the change and stuff. So just making it like super visual and super easy to digest, and just organizing the file nicely, putting everything into sections, labeling different screens and stuff, and just trying to make it just easy to digest and easy to navigate essentially. Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. I think that's our co-founder. One of my favorite things that she's ever said is like designers always have to remember developers are technically your first user. Like they're going to be the people who are first digesting your designs, being able to bring them to life. So you have to do those extra steps in order to make it readable, understandable, to make sure your vision gets brought to life too. So I appreciate that. And anytime we hear anybody that's like, yes, file maintenance, I do this prep work, I do it all. That's like music to our ears. So thank you for doing that and for sharing. With that being said,
Hmm.
too, I'm curious to know what you think the future of going from design to development looks like. You know, specifically with AI being able to generate code, and I saw another tool that was like connect your design system to this AI, and based on a PRD, it can generate full designs for you. Like, what do you think the future of design to dev looks like?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I think there just needs to be a bit more like a bit more closeness. I still feel like quite disconnected from the projects, like from the developments, like their side of work. Like obviously they kind of you give them access to the file, and they're just a mouse pointer that's just looking around the file and clicking and stuff. So I think Figma is obviously going to continue to get more advanced and stuff. They've added like dev mode, and they're making it like properly like dev friendly and stuff. So
Mhm.
I think the future is just things becoming just more like interlinked, like closer, like maybe even like you said, designers being able to like generate code and stuff and some front end, and like take some of the like effort out of the process for the developers and let them work on like higher level tasks. So I think yeah, that's probably where it's going to head.
Awesome. Very cool. I'm curious to know too, specifically related to your experience. You said, you have worked at a startup, you've worked at an agency, now you're doing freelance. What are the main differences between designing for startups versus enterprises versus your freelance work? Like what are the key things, I guess, for each persona that you've done design for?
Mm. Yeah, I think from going from startup to agency, the biggest difference definitely is like pace, and like context. Obviously, a startup, the pace is a bit slower, depending on the company, obviously, compared to agency, because you're working on like one product the whole time, and you've got time sometimes to like sit down and like break things down and have meetings and work on things. Whereas agency side, like you're often working on like two, three, four, maybe even more clients at a time. So the pace is just a lot more intense. I think that's the biggest difference there. And I think with freelancing, at least how I've been approaching it, it's similar to agency side where there's a fast pace, lots of context switching, and the main difference moving from kind of working at an agency to freelancing is obviously I've got to manage my own schedule. I've got to kind of run the game basically, and like and yeah, make sure everything's kind of running smoothly.
Yeah, what are that's an interesting kind of thing I don't think too many people think about is you have to start understanding the business side of things a whole lot more when you're doing your own thing. So like what are the main skills that somebody should learn if they want to start up their own practice, if they want to start freelancing? Like what are the core areas that you think they should be proficient in before being able to take on clients?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I think definitely you've got to get confident to a point where you're happy to like sell yourself on calls. If you're like still nervous, or you're dealing with imposter syndrome or something, like that's just going to come across in the calls, and people are going to be a bit hesitant to work with you. So I think you've got to build like confidence in your skills and what you can offer, before you even want to start doing it, because you're going to struggle communicating like your value and connecting with clients and stuff on the call. So I think that's a big one. And then just making sure you have a level of like professionalism and stuff, because design often isn't cheap. You know, if you want to someone to pay you thousands to design something, you know, you want to come across as professional, like you know what you're talking about, and yeah, just come across as someone of value, basically.
Awesome. And what are do you have like a tool stack in mind that helps you keep up to date on everything? Like what are the main tools in your tool stack right now that you currently use in order to keep track of all the clients, do all this work?
Yeah, I don't use anything fancy whatsoever. I just use Apple Notes at the moment. I have like a kind of, because I've messed with Notion before and stuff, but
Mhm.
every time I try to do something in Notion, I just never go back to it. I don't know what it is. I just can't be bothered to open it up and like click around. I don't know what it is, but Apple Notes just seems to work. So I literally just have kind of like today's task list that I'll like tick off, what's coming up tomorrow, maybe like a backlog, just literally just as bullet points that are just getting checked off. And then I have like a week table, like Sunday to Monday, that I'm just like putting in like, cool, I'm working on this client on that day and this client on this afternoon, and that's literally it. Like just keep it super simple. Yeah.
There you go. It reminds me of I saw one of the like the bell curve meme before on X that was like the left side was just use Apple Notes. The middle one was like use all these like you know
Yeah.
10 different softwares to keep up. You have to use these different scheduling softwares. And then the right side was just use Apple Notes. So that's
Yeah,
awesome
yeah,
to see this in real life.
that's literally exactly what it is. Like, yeah, sometimes it's just like keep it simple, stupid. Like, yeah.
Don't overcomplicate it. That's a great lesson I think that a lot of people can take. Not only even if they're not looking to branch out on their own, but even just in their day to day. Like the simpler you keep
Mm,
it, the easier it is to maintain. So that's awesome.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And I hope that that helps some folks out there realize that they don't need to start getting anything or all these new tools to start. Like you can just make do with what you got. And I like that. Awesome. Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing. My last question for you here too is a bit of a different one. I'm curious to hear what you think specifically coming from a designer perspective. Do you think that designers need to learn how to code?
No, no, I don't think you need to learn how to code. I think it's a pretty like um cliche answer, but I think yeah, if you have an understanding of like some front end stuff, I think it always helps. Like just knowing the limitations of what can be done. Um, that's great, but I think no, you don't need to learn how to code. Like I think there seems to be very few designers that can like code really well and design really well. I think it's kind of either or. Like so yeah, I don't think they need to know how to code at all.
There you
No.
go. All right, good answer. Good answer. I like to hear it. Speaking of that too, you know, I'm curious to know with AI. We touched on this a little bit before. Are you currently using any AI tools in your workflows? Like, are you going to start looking for some now? What are your thoughts on AI in general?
Yeah, I'm not like a heavy user of AI. I use Chat GPT just almost like kind of like a second brain, like just little tasks. So just writing out some copy if I want to put some like real copy into like some designs to make them look a bit more like realistic. I'll generate some copy with Chat GPT. Another thing I do is when I'm picking like icons for like designs, if it's like a term that's like a bit businessy, I'll ask AI, ChatGPT like, how could I represent document library with an icon, and it'll just give me loads of suggestions, and then I'll like search through my library and stuff. So I'll use ChatGPT as like a little bit of a kind of assistant in that sense. And then apart from that, I'm not really heavily using any AI tools. The only thing I've been using a little bit recently is FigJam has like a little generate kind of AI
Mhm.
feature in it. So I've been using that to generate like workshops for clients,
Okay.
where I do kind of like mood boarding and like little brainstorming sessions with them. And obviously, you can just ask it to like generate kind of just some tables and some layouts with sticky notes and stuff that you can use for a client workshop. So yeah, that's all I've been kind of yeah doing.
Awesome. Very interesting that that I've seen. It's similar to what I've seen too, with a lot of folks mostly taking the position of, I am cautious yet excited that it will be another tool that will be added to our workflow that will help us do things. And it's awesome to hear that you've been using it specifically as like a solo founder, really, to have, something to bounce your ideas off of in like an assistant capacity. That's interesting, and I hope that some people listening will be able to take that and start to work those same workflows into their own day to days too, to help them speed up and whatnot too. So awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. Those were all the questions that I had for you today for the interview portion. I've got a few rapid fire questions here for you that we're just looking for, a few word answers here, and then we'll move on to my favorite segment where we'll put your design skills to the test. But I've got 4 questions for you here. And the very first one is, if you had to guess, how many rectangles have designers created?
Mm, probably like the hundreds of billions.
Hundreds of
Probably,
billions.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
like it.
probably something like that. The dawn of time, is that what you said? Like,
Yeah, for basically just since rectangles were a thing, how many rectangles have designers made?
yeah, it's got to be like in the high billions, surely. Yeah.
I like that answer. We've gotten answers all the way down from 2 million up to infinity. So I always just like to gauge, like, okay, on a Price is Right scale, where would you where would you land? And once I do find the answer to that question, I'll be sure to let everybody know who's answered that question for me.
Mm.
If you could describe your design process in just one word, what would that word be?
Um, clean.
Clean. I like that. I like that. If you could describe Exalt Studio in just one word, what would that word be?
Professional.
Professional. Clean and professional. Those are great. And last question for you is, if you could describe yourself in just one word, what would that word be?
Um, humble.
Clean, professional, and humble. That is good. That's a very good combination. I like it all sticks within the same family here too. Gives I think everybody a great little sort of look into who you are too. So that's awesome. Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing. We have now come to my absolute favorite segment of the show, where I so lovingly call it "So You Think You're a Designer." It's where we put your design skills to the test using a web-based version of Microsoft Paint. You'll have 2 minutes to recreate the Zeppelin logo here. So if you want to, feel free to share your screen. We'll follow along with you. You can talk us through your process. But as soon as the first pixel hits the screen, we will go ahead and start your time. So here, awesome. We see your screen. It looks good. If you want to, go ahead and hit view, and then there should be a little zoom, and then zoom to window. And that might give us a larger canvas to work from. Or you can work from here too. And this is totally fine, and we'll
Oh,
we'll be able to follow through.
zoom to window. Where is that?
No worries. It's
Um,
all good. We can see your screen, and you're all good too. So whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and start your designing. And I'll start the time. So we're all ready for you.
okay. Let me see where the logo is. I need to quickly
Yes.
grab it.
Yes, back in let's see here. Back in Riverside, we've got it back up here.
Yeah,
Um,
I've got it. I've got it.
Perfect. All right.
Okay. So how long is it? Sorry.
2 minutes. You've got 2 minutes. So as soon as the first pixel hits the canvas, your time will officially start, and I'll let you know a minute and 30 seconds left. All those good things.
Okay. All right. I'm using a trackpad, so this is see how it goes. Let's do like a piece there.
Oh,
Do like another piece.
this is an interesting technique. I've never seen anybody go piece by piece like this. I like
Um,
this.
okay. Maybe like don't know if that yellow is doing. Might have to get a different yellow. Okay. Let's go round over. Okay, try and fill these in.
This is great. This is a very unconventional technique, and I like it. I like to see the what the trackpad forces you to do. And we're at a minute here now
Yeah.
too, so you've got a minute left to add on to finish your masterpiece here.
Okay. Let's try and split this up. Hmm, do yellow and then orange. Okay.
This is looking fantastic. So honestly, much better than anything that I could ever do. I'm constantly always genuinely impressed by like everything that designers are actually able to put forth during this too.
Okay.
Awesome. And
I mean, that's
you've got about 30 seconds left. If you want to add anything else, if you want to add some clouds, if you want to, some folks have added smiley faces before. It's up to you, completely up to you. Or you can also cede the rest of your
yeah,
time.
yeah. I'm not even sure what would be add some little like. That's not even part of
Oh,
the logo though, so even.
the logo here is whatever you want to make it. That's the beauty of this exercise. This is your
That's as far
spin.
as I can get with it. I think that's as far as I'm gonna be able to get with it.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's fantastic. I will go ahead. I'll ask you after the fact to save this and send it to me because I like to keep a collection of everybody who's done this. But you're welcome to stop sharing your screen. Come back to the main chat. We've got another person on LinkedIn who his name is Memda who said hello. So we've got a few folks who are watching you too. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to leave all of the viewers off with? Any words of wisdom, advice, anything you want to plug? This is your chance.
No, yeah, like if anyone is a designer and wants to freelance and start up their own thing, feel free to drop me a message on X or LinkedIn, and yeah, I'd be happy to answer your questions. And then in terms of plugging any links, I'm mostly active on X, which is at Dalton UI UX, and my website is exaltstudio.co. So yeah, you can check me out there.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, that's awesome. I hope that we do get a few interested people who do reach out to you. I think that's fantastic. You seem to have a great head on your shoulders in terms of running your agency, in terms of how you approach design work too. So I really do appreciate you coming on and sharing that with us. But I wanted to thank you so much again for your time. And I hope everybody has a great rest of your week. And we will see you later. Have a great rest of your week. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.